Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Jonathan here. This is AMA number, wait for it, 14 already. Hard to believe. The days have no meaning to me. Dates have no meaning to me. I pretty much only go by the AMA. And we are somehow up to number 14. Today is June 27th. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Good morning, Benji. Good morning, Lori. So we have LA and Tel Aviv in the house. June 25th. Okay, I was close. What did I say? June 27th? 2 days, not bad. I have to say in the grand scheme of things. June 25th. We all agree it's June 25th. Thank you very much. I now understand it is June 25th. Sorry about that. Next week, I promise I will know the date. But as I said, I go by AMAs. So tomorrow won't be, to me, for you, it will be June 26th. For me, it will be AMA 14 plus 1. Day after tomorrow, AMA 14 plus 2. We all have our different calendars. Anyway, everything is good. Talk a little bit about Poland, and then we have a very good guest today. I hope you all enjoyed last week's guest, the ambassador, Alexander Ben-Zvi, Israeli ambassador. But today we have a very interesting guest, a good friend of mine, someone who's become really a good friend in the last year or so since we met, and that is Marc Bennett from Aspen, Colorado, by way of Brooklyn, who is a director and an artist, and he's doing a really, really cool project with JCC Krakow that we're going to talk about. Hello, Saul Schachter. Benji Lovett asks, Benji Lovett, our own Kathy Bates from Misery, asks, hey, Jonathan, how do we get one of those gorgeous shirts on the wall? You're referring to the gorgeous jersey on the wall. You can get that in one of two ways. You can be really, really clever and ask nicely, and maybe I will grant you a jersey. You can send us $180, which will go to help keep the JCC serving our Jewish community, and we'll send you one. Or you can have get 18 of your friends to sign up. So that would be 17 plus you. 18 friends to sign up for virtual ride for the living, and you will get a jersey. But for you, Benji, as we know, you have already substantially financially supported the JCC and have earned your shirt. So you will get the jersey is on its way to you, Benji, where you will be the pride of Yafo. Good morning, Linda Krar. Good to see you, Linda. Nice to see everybody. So let's see what's going on today in the world. So in Poland, situation, everything is open. Very few masks. We are kind of back to normal. Still the highest rates continue to be of new infections continue to be in the southwest of Poland, in Silesia, in the Śląsk region, which is 1/3 of the total cases and 50% of the active cases. So the rest of Poland kind of doing okay, but this one part of Poland is still very dangerous. Luckily for us, that's not our part of Poland. So the borders as of now are opened for citizens of the EU, and you do not have to quarantine yourself. So if you're an EU citizen, you can come into Poland and be free to go. The external borders of the EU remain closed. So if you are a foreigner coming from outside the EU, you are not allowed to come into Poland yet. The United States, they're deciding on, but looking at what's going on in the US, I do not think that they are going to allow Americans in anytime soon, which is a bit of a shame and a problem for me, because my brother is supposed to come visit with his daughter. My brother, Mikey. I have a brother and a sister. I am the oldest. I have a sister who's 5 years younger and a brother who's 9 years younger. And my sister's been many times with her family, but my brother has only been here once 17 years ago. So he now has a daughter, and they've never been to the JCC, and I haven't seen them here in a long time. So we're really excited for my brother to visit, but doesn't look like that's going to happen since he is an American citizen, and America is unfortunately still chock full of corona. So yeah, that's a problem. In the news here, Polish President Andrzej Duda is in the United States meeting with Donald Trump. So let's wish a fruitful meeting. Actually, they met yesterday. So we've been very disappointed lately in the Polish president, who's not only made some very strong sort of homophobic anti-LGBT remarks, but also public television, which is connected to him and supports him, has been it's made some anti-Semitic type comments, as we talked about last week a little bit. So not too great. So there's not a lot of there's a lot of love between Duda and Trump, but I don't think that says too much for Duda or for Trump. But Poland is very mindful of the U.S. relationship, and is a country that is really trying its best to get along with Trump and to get along with the U.S. I see Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey. Finished with his poker game with Benji. Jeffrey is coming in lieu of my brother. Jeffrey, you can come because you do have a Polish passport, so you are welcome to come and visit us. So that's essentially what's been going on in terms of what I've been up to. Just busy. The JCC, we're trying to reopen. I'll get to that in a minute. There are some questions about it, so we'll talk about that. But I have been, let's see. Oh, Haley Warner Girls and Alex. Hello. Something very upsetting that I was talking with Haley yesterday. Haley Warner, Ride for the Living participant, daughter of Friends of JC Krakow President Vicky Warner, one of the famous Warner girls. Let me know yesterday. She's a grad student at NYU, and very upsetting. The grad student union did some sort of very strong anti-Israel letter that they sent out, essentially saying that NYU shouldn't cooperate with Israel. So that was upsetting to see. Sometimes I'm in my little Polish bubble and I forget what American college campuses are like. So stay strong there, Haley. We'll fix that. We'll get to the bottom of that. And it's really a shame, especially when a university that's so incredibly Jewish like NYU, or also we had the situation recently with Columbia, not only to single those out, but as two universities that have such strong Jewish presence, Jewish staff, Jewish students, Jewish donors, and are can be quite and hostile to Israel at times, which is upsetting. But anyway, just was about to say what I've been sort of up to and watching besides a lot of work. What have I watched recently? I watched The Spanish Prisoner, which is a movie. If you like David Mamet, I'm a big David Mamet fan. So if you like David Mamet, Spanish Prisoner is a good one. He, of course, Glengarry Glen Ross, House of Games, done a lot, amazing screenwriter, has his sort of own way of writing, the sort of David Mamet school of writing dialogue, which is sort of this very gritty, realistic way of writing dialogue. So I'm a big fan. So I watched Spanish Prisoner in the last few days. Haven't watched that much. And we started season 2 of The Politician. Kasha and I like that one. So if you guys watch, that's with Ben Platt and Gwyneth Paltrow. It's a show by Ryan Murphy. He also did Hollywood this year, which I talked a little bit about. I like this one better. It's a little like sort of light and silly, very cynical, but I like that. So that's sort of what's been going on, what I've been watching. And okay, we have some questions for me before we get to Mr. Marc Bennett, who's up early for us in Aspen, one of my favorite places in the world that we'll talk to. Vicky, good morning, Vicky. Atypical is really good. I will make a note of that and I will check out Atypical. I know what that's about. Atypical, I've heard of that. I just haven't gotten around to that yet. I will take a look. Oh, Gish likes Atypical. Okay. Gish, do I agree with your taste or not? I'm not sure. Vicky and I usually aligned. Not sure about you, Gish, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So let's get to some questions that you guys had for me. What's up with the JCC? Very specific question. Now, a very broad question. What's up with the JCC? What are the next steps? Friday's still open. We are working toward opening. We're thinking about the senior club in a limited way, perhaps outside in the courtyard. And maybe, just maybe, if Kasha will come out of retirement, temporary retirement, we will get Kasha to do some cooking and maybe do a Shabbat dinner and have it outside in the courtyard. Little shout out to my dad, who is watching with Sita, with his friend who helps him at home. So hi to Jerry, my dad, and Sita. I see Kasha is watching, about time. And when are we bringing Three's Company? I watch Three's Company just about every day, Benji. You're the Mr. Roper of my AMA, Benji, and I say that with love. So the next steps with the JACC are hopefully bringing the seniors back very slowly. Of course, we need to be careful with the seniors because they're the most susceptible to Corona. But I think we can have them outside. Maybe next week we'll start limited numbers, and maybe Shabbat dinner. We haven't had Shabbat dinner since the beginning of March, so we're all totally missing Shabbat dinner, one of our signature events at the JCC. Has been very sad for us. Of course, we've been doing Shabbat online. Every week I do Kiddush, and we have some JCC members that we do that together, which is nice. But of course, as we all know very, very well, two-dimensional is not a replacement for three-dimensional. So hopefully we will do IRL Shabbat dinners very, very soon. Next question, why did we extend Ride for the Living? Can we still join? Yeah, I should have led with that. We have extended Ride for the Living. So virtual Ride for the Living, where our project this year of taking our Ride for the Living, which is generally not happening, and putting it out there so everybody can join and do it on their own, was such an overwhelming response to our virtual ride. We have over 1,100 people doing it, that we decided to push it forward from July 5th, the finish, to July 12th. So it means you guys have another week to continue walking, cycling, or riding, getting in shape, get your friends involved. There's still plenty of time to sign up. Today is, as we said, June 25th. So there are 17 more days. That's plenty of time. Get your friends involved. Be really cool to hit 2,000 people. So I would be personally thrilled if you got some more people involved, and we can have people thinking about the Holocaust, thinking about the rebirth of Jewish life, and also so important to get in shape after Corona, or sorry, I wish it was after Corona, right in the middle of Corona, but it's still a good time to get in shape. Are you planning to do the ride? Yes, I announced yesterday. I'm going to put it out there on social media. I was thinking about it very much, that I have been in touch with Bernard and been in touch with Marcel, the two Holocaust survivors that joined us, that join us every year. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm here in Krakow. I'm in a position that I can do it. I won't endanger anybody else. So I'm going to go and get on my bike on July 12th, the last day of the ride, and I will do Ride for the Living. It'll be really very sad for me not to do it as I did last year with Bernard on the tandem bike with me. Having a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor riding with you is an experience that I'll never forget in my life, and I'm sure I'll have it again next year. But this year, I'll be forced to ride by myself, but I want to do it in honor of my friends Bernard, age 90, and Marcel, age 85, our two survivors that ride with us. So I feel that I want to do something a little bit for them, and I will go out to Auschwitz and I will ride back. So in honor of them, and for all of you that are doing it virtually and unable to join us here in Krakow this year, I will go to Auschwitz-Birkenau and I will do the ride and come back to Krakow. So I'm excited to do that. I think it's a good thing for me to do, and I think it's a fitting close for the ride, instead of just having it virtual, that I'll be able to do it for real from Auschwitz to the JCC. Next question, am I planning on bringing the senior club back during the summer? I believe I mentioned that, so hopefully yes. Next question, are there any online programs JCC does in English? Yeah, we had actually very exciting, two really cool things that went on this week, where that we did online, were part of our virtual Ride for the Living. You know, we want virtual Ride for the Living not only to be something to get people in shape and to commemorate the Holocaust, and some people are raising money, which is really great to help us stay open and keep things going, but virtual Ride for the Living also has a strong educational component, as does Ride for the Living. So we had two really just exceptional programs. I don't always participate in all the Holocaust education stuff because I'm here, been to Auschwitz so many times, but these two events were absolutely phenomenal. One was a lecture by Professor Michael Berenbaum, who, among many other hats that he's wearing and has worn, was the project manager for the US Holocaust Museum. So really the one who decided how the US Holocaust Museum should look, primary scholar who did that, who was just the world-renowned expert on the Holocaust. So he spoke about, he did as amazing a 50-minute lecture as I've ever heard in my life. He described the entire history of the Holocaust in Poland, including the pre-war situation through the end of the Holocaust in 50 minutes, and then answered questions. So that's online. We have that online available on our Facebook, and we'll put a link there now. And the second was something really remarkable. Everything in Auschwitz, Auschwitz has done a very good job of recreating virtually what the camp looked like while it was operating. and our own Aggie Kotzer-Smolin, who is a director of programming at the JCC, but for 11 years has been a guide at Auschwitz, and really one of the main guides that, you know, has been just sort of an all-star guide at Auschwitz. She did a virtual tour of Auschwitz. So if you haven't been, or if you're curious just to understand from that perspective, we'll put that out there. That was phenomenal that we saw that we were able to put that out there, and you can access that online. We'll let you know how to do that. So I want to get to my guest, Marc Bennett, artist and director. Marc is from Brooklyn. Marc studied the School of Visual Arts in New York City. He's won many different awards. He's directed feature films, documentaries, music videos, commercials. He is an artist with very interesting installations around the world. Has been shown all over the world, especially sort of related to Jewish topics and Holocaust topics. Lives in Aspen, Colorado. I've gotten to know Marc over the last year and has become really a good friend of mine, and somebody that I've had the pleasure of working very, very closely on the project that we're going to talk about, which is the film about Ride for the Living, or the film focusing on Ride for the Living and really about larger ideas of the Holocaust and empathy and where we are today in the world in terms of hatred and where we said. So without any further delay, my good friend, Marc Bennett. How are you, Marc? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. Good evening or good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to us and good morning. Sorry for getting you up so early, but I think you're up early anyway.
I don't mind. For you, I'd be happy to do it.
Well, if I tell you what, if I were in Aspen, Colorado right now, I would be up at the crack of dawn, sitting outside, enjoying the beautiful air and the beautiful scenery.
Great.
So tell me,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And you know that Aspen also, you know, not to sound, I don't know if it sounds somewhat pretentious or something, but Aspen in the last few years, I've had a chance with Kasha to come out every summer for the last few years, and has really become one of my favorite places in the world. So how does a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn get out to Aspen? You are somewhat smarter than the rest of us who don't live in Aspen.
I think, you know, I grew up my whole life in big cities, and when I turned 50, I decided I didn't want to spend the rest of my second half of my life in a big city. And I had always come to Aspen to vacation, and I said, you know, this is the opportunity to live in nature, and been here about 14 years and never been happier.
I've never been happier than when I come out and able to stop by your house and visit you. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Yes, going rafting with you or paddling with you on the river was pretty fun last summer.
My first paddleboard experience, hopefully not my last. That was quite a challenge. I still parts of my body still feel it. But tell me, Marc. So I introduced you before as an artist and a director, and I want to talk about especially some of your more recent works, both art and film directing. But tell me in terms of skill sets, because in some ways I'm just interested. Do you see those as very different skill sets? What is it that you just sort of allows you to do both, to me, things that are in some ways very different?
That's a good question. I've been, you know, doing art and some sort of film since I was very young. And they're just both things that interest me and excite me. But the main difference is, for me anyway, is art is much more of a singular creative process. When you get into the marketing of it, it's more of a collaboration, but the actual creative aspect of art is usually more singular. You do it by yourself. And filmmaking is the ultimate collaboration, where, you know, you are just part of a creative team that is working to produce a common goal, product, piece. And I think they're both very different and very interesting. And I feel like when I'm doing art, it's a great break from filmmaking and vice versa. But I do love the collaborative nature of both of them very, very much.
It's very interesting to me because as I deal with artists, if we have exhibitions here or just artists I know, I feel to some degree to be an artist, you have to be very much inside your own head and sort of almost tune out everything else. Yet to be a director, as you mentioned, it's the ultimate collaborative enterprise. You're sort of trying to keep a lot of ships going in the right direction and cajoling and dealing with egos and actors or just people you're filming and a lot of different creative people who are themselves complicated. So it just seems interesting to me that I would almost think that it was like an either or. Either you're sort of an artist type personality or you're a director, but you're actually splitting and both.
I guess so. They're just both things that I always loved doing, and creating art, is it's a very exciting process. And to see, lately I've been working on more public art projects, like the one I'm doing for the hospital in Beersheba, Soroka Medical Center. You can see some of the samples here. I'm doing a piece called The History of the Star David, which is a huge installation in their new cancer center courtyard. And that's going to be like 16 by 24 feet. And, everything's kind of been a little slow now because of the virus and, not being able to travel. But I'm very excited about that project. And then to be doing that concurrently with working on the Ride for the Living documentary is both two very exciting projects that get me excited about getting up in the morning.
So great. I want to talk to you about Ride for the Living. But before that, the two projects that I was interested in talking to you about a little bit before that is one, I want to start the Tattooed Torah, which I want to get to in a little bit, which is a phenomenal film that you just made recently. But about the Star of David project, because I think it's a really cool project. I've seen it in a few different places. I've seen it in Aspen, and I've seen it in LA. And we're just putting up a photo with you standing there with it. I'm not sure where is that in.
That's
Aspen?
in the no, that's actually in the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust.
Oh, in Los Angeles. We had our mutual friend Beth was our guest a few weeks ago. That's right. That's where it is, Museum of the Holocaust. So maybe because it's such a cool project and it's really obviously becoming a thing around the world. You have all these big institutions, not only Soroka, which you're installing it in other places. So maybe can you talk us through just the idea of it and sort of what we're looking at?
Sure. It actually, it's a very interesting project because it all began very organically. When the JCC opened in Aspen, I wanted to create something to honor and celebrate the building, and with Rabbi Mendel, who I became very close with, I came up with this idea of the history of the Star of David, because the Star of David is one of the most recognizable symbols on the planet, but few people really know its history and its evolution over the millennium. And in so many ways, this history of this star and this symbol and this logo kind of reflects the journey of the Jewish people through the ups and the downs over the years. And so I went and did a lot of research at the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles. They gave me access to their archives because I had done some art shows with them in the past. And I found about 300 images of the Star of David throughout history. They were all very specific moments and usages that were very interesting to me. And when you strung them all together, you start to see the history from this image that once was not necessarily just a Jewish image. The upper left image is one of the earliest known usages of it, from a carving in a synagogue on the Sea of Galilee, through the third one. There is one from Theodore Herzl's sketchbook, his idea for the symbol for the bank that was funding the formation of the State of Israel, and through chuppah stones and usages for either for cemeteries and headstones, to like religious items, to the last image on the right on the second row, which is the familiar yellow star, which was used to mark Jews during the Holocaust. And that one actually is, it says Jude in it, which is from the Netherlands, as opposed to Juda, which is the more common one. You see, this one I chose was a little less common. And I felt it was really important to put that one in there because, you know, for that symbol to be used for such a horrific use and time, that it still ended up becoming on the state flag of Israel below that in 1948, to me is a tremendous example of perseverance and courage and determination that we were not going to be wiped out. And so the piece became kind of, by looking at our past and where we are now, gives us hope and optimism for the future. Even the second to last one on the bottom is from the first gathering of Holocaust survivors in Israel in, I think, 1983. And it's the symbol of the Jewish star with the olive leaf. And if in the Hebrew, if you could read it, I believe that says from Holocaust to hope, if you translate that. So I found it very interesting putting these together, and I made it on anodized aluminum where it had this reflective nature to it and became kind of like a stained glass window feeling, but indoors. I made it for the synagogue in Aspen, and it just, people started noticing it and wanting it to buy it for other museums and institutions. And then we started making editions of them to sell for people's homes and offices. So it's become a very exciting project, all meant as just a gift and a celebration for the JCC in Aspen. And it was funded by two good friends of mine, Judy and Alan Altman, who funded it. And it now exists in the lobby of the JCC. And it's been a very exciting project. And now to see this piece being made for a hospital in Israel, one of the most prestigious hospitals in Israel, to be an outdoor piece, and which will be promoted as a tourist attraction and an educational vehicle, but to see it as big as it's going to be, which is about, you know, this one is about 7 feet tall. So imagine one that's almost 3 times the height of this. That's very exciting to me, especially my background is in theater as a set designer. So I like working large scale. So to see this, you know, piece of art that was a gift and a celebration to become more of a worldwide movement that promotes our history and perseverance is very exciting for me.
It's very cool. I'm a big fan. I saw it. We have a photo of us, I think, standing in front of it in Aspen. It looks beautiful in Aspen, and that's the place that we spent time together in the JCC. There, we spoke there this past summer. So it's a wonderful project. Maybe just quickly, because I want to get on to the Tattooed Torah, another very cool project of yours that you're doing, that you just finished. Tell me maybe just where else is the Star of David, and then we're going to also put up the link if people are interested. We'll put up your Star of David website. But where else?
Yeah, the website is starofdavidart.com.
Yeah, Seb will put it up. So just where else are they if people want to see them? Like if they happen to be once we start traveling again.
The original one started in Aspen. It's in the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust in Los Angeles, with Beth Keane as the executive director, and Melinda Goldrich and her family, one of the major funders and benefactors of that. It's in Yad Vashem. It's in, it is going up in Soroka Medical Center. It is in Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, and various other institutions around the world.
That's where I saw it. Everywhere I go speak, I see one of those, Mark.
And it recently was through the Goldrich Foundation was placed in the permanent collection of the USC Shoah Foundation's new headquarters in Los Angeles. So that was very exciting.
You know, when I'm asked to come and speak about Jewish life, the first thing I ask them is, do you have Star of David by Marc Bennett? If they don't have it, I'm not going. Luckily, it seems to be everywhere I go, they have one.
Well, we need to get one for you. That'll be next.
There we go.
It'll be my gift to you.
Thank you. You know, we have, I've always, there are some people, you know, with logos and, you know, from a Jewish institution, you're usually looking at two options, right? You want a menorah or do you want a star? And for me, I always like the star. It's much stronger. I like the angles. I never was a menorah kind of person, much more of the star, but I'm a big fan. But I want to get to another cool project of yours, which really sort of shows that was an art project and a film project, which you've recently completed before we get to the ride, which is the Tattooed Torah, which is an absolutely wonderful, this beloved children's book that many people know for years and years, and that you took the book and turned it into a film narrated by Ed Asner. So maybe talk a little bit about that project, which is just, you know, I couldn't be a bigger fan.
Thank you. That's so nice. I appreciate your kind words. It was very interesting. I was in Chicago doing a jury Judaic art show with the star David, and I was introduced to a woman, Beth Copen, whose mother was a well-known educator of early childhood education.
Marvell Ginsburg.
Right, and in Chicago, and for the Jewish school system in Chicago, and she was teaching all of these, she was developing all these programs to teach young children about Jewish holidays, Jewish culture. And then she realized that, you know what, there's nothing really for young children to teach an introduction to the Holocaust. And so she wrote this beautiful little book, and an illustrated book called the Tattooed Torah, that it was based on a true story about one of the Czech scrolls. You know, when the Nazis pilfered all the synagogues and religious items throughout Europe during the war, and were saving them to build, you know, to put in a museum to kind of highlight this race they wiped off the face of the earth. They took all these religious items, including Torahs, they numbered all of them, you know, to catalog them. And of course, after the war, that never was realized, and they found this trove of all of these in Czechoslovakia, and they were brought to Westminster Synagogue, where they were a trust was formed that did all the restoration and repairs, and started loaning these Torahs out to people all around the world. There you see a picture of the book, and so this woman comes up to me and says, my mother wrote this book and I want to make it into a movie. And I've been talking to people for years and just not getting anywhere. I looked at the book. I thought the idea of teaching young children this in a very palatable way, there's no killing shown, there's no gas chambers shown, but in a way, it's all related to this little Torah that was pilfered out of a synagogue and later found and brought to a school in Chicago, which is based on a true story. So I looked at her and I said, I'll do it. I just thought it was a great idea. I had zero idea how I would do it, but I said, this needs to be done and I'll make it happen. And so the first call I made was to Melinda Goldrich, our good friend, whose family foundation is one of the major supporters of Holocaust education around the country. And I told her about it and she was interested and eventually came on as executive producer and funder. And then I called Stephen Smith at the Shoah Foundation because I knew they had an educational website that reaches classrooms with related content about the Holocaust as well as other genocides around the world. And I asked them to come on and they did. So with those two and some other funders, we raised the money and started putting together this project, which was really, really exciting. I had never done an animated film before. And it just like everybody that we called just gravitated to it and just said, yes, I'm in. The person on the right in that picture is Martin Lemmelman, who was the original illustrator of the book 30 years ago. And we tracked him down and asked him to come in and do the movie. The book was very simple. It's about a Torah that gets pilfered, stored, was found after the war and brought to a school in Chicago because a man wanted needed a child's Torah for his son who was getting bar mitzvah, and he heard about these scrolls and he brought one in. So the book was very simple. The movie, to make a movie, you need a 3-act dramatic structure. So we had to expand on it a little bit. So the original book had about 20 illustrations. When I went to this guy, Martin, to ask him to come on, be part of the project, I said we'd need about another 10 or 15, but I wouldn't fully know until we raised the money and wrote the script. Well, he signed on, no problem. We wrote the script with Beth's son, who's a screenwriter and a creative person and a rabbi in training in Los Angeles. So the two of us got together, wrote the script. And when I went back to Martin, it turned out we needed 110 illustrations to make the movie, to animate from. And he nearly had a heart attack, but he really just came through and made it happen. And I brought in one of my good friends to animate it. And then Lisa Efris, a very good friend of mine and a producer, came on to produce it to her company, $11 bill. And one of their animators, Christian Robbins, in conjunction with my friend Jeffrey Piddle, animated the film. And then we needed a voiceover, a narrator. And I had worked with Ed Asner before, and he's, an amazing man.
People don't know that, maybe younger people. So this is from Mary Tyler Moore, Mr. Grant from the Mary Tyler Moore show.
Grant.
Lou Grant.
But
and he was the head of, wasn't he the head of the Screen Actors Guild?
He was, and younger people would know him. He was the voice in the movie Up, which won the Academy Award for animated film. He's just a consummate professional, an amazing man, very involved in Jewish causes. He works with the Mitzvah Project.
A great voice, a voice filled
amazing
with
voice.
gravitas.
I called him up and I left a message. He called me right back and he said, "What's up?" And I said, "Ed, I'm doing an animated children's film that's educate young children about the Holocaust, and there's the whole idea of it is kind of like Princess Bride, where it's being narrated by a grandfather, and then at the very end, something is revealed that's interesting about the grandfather." So I said, "So I'm looking for a grandfather." He said, "Who else are you going to go to?" And I said, "This is not a freebie, of course. This is a paid job, but I really would love to have you a part of it." He said, "Absolutely." And he showed up for the recording session, so prepared and so just, he had known all, even though when you're not acting on camera, you're reading for a microphone, you didn't need to memorize stuff, but he had memorized most of it. He's just, for 90 years old, this man is just one of the most, his work ethic is just unbelievable. It's
a great film, really a great job. And just maybe where is it available? Where can people see it? What's going on with that? I know it's in different festivals, but maybe just tell us quickly if there's a place that people would be able to see it.
It's right now, it's correct. We're doing the film festival circuit. We've been in 7 film festivals so far that we've been accepted to, one which we won. And we have another 70 festivals that we're waiting to hear from. Some have been delayed, some are going virtual, due to the current state of the world and the virus, but it's all very exciting. And we're getting tremendous reviews on it.
It's a short film, which is great for kids because it's
20 minutes long.
20 minutes.
Short, 21 minutes geared towards children. And it's done in a way that introduces the idea of the Holocaust, basically by this little Torah that's desecrated and then found and restored and then cherished. It just teaches the lessons of the Holocaust through something that's cherished that should not be desecrated. So it's kind of a universal message, but it deals with the Holocaust.
Very sweet. It's a particularly sweet and gentle film, and it tells, it's about the Holocaust, but it's about family and it's about intergenerational transmission of history and of identity. It's really very sweet. I have to tell you that 2 of the best things that I've seen recently about the Holocaust are 2 children's films that are together, I think, 30 minutes long. One is the Tattooed Torah, your film, and the other is The Number on Great Grandpa's Arm.
Amazing. HBO did that.
Which is HBO, which is also, of course, another friend, Stacy Science, about her son Elliot, and then her grandfather, who is the great grandfather. So she's been here. We showed that film here as well, and I'm sure we'll be able, once we'll get to show Tattooed Torah here.
I forgot that you know Stacy, because she's amazing. And I met her at the anniversary, the 75th anniversary for Auschwitz, and the whole story about how that movie came to be, and a young boy asking his great grandfather about the number on his arm, and his grandfather explaining. And when they get into it, shows a little more detail of the Holocaust and the camps, but it's done through animation. It's live action, but when he tells the story, it goes into animation. It was done really well, and HBO did an amazing job marketing it. And we're kind of doing a similar thing where I want to take it in, make it into exhibitions throughout museums. And we're actually talking to Beth Keane now that they got the funding to expand the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. She and Melinda have discussed doing a children's section, and maybe we could work the Tattooed Torah and a film like The Number on Great Grandpa's Arm into the permanent educational programming there.
That'd be great. So I want to talk to you, Mark, about your current project that's occupying a lot of your time. That's how reason that we know each other, something that's actually very timely because it's going on right now, and you're involved in all of this, intimately involved, which is the Ride for the Living film project that you are the director of, the yet unnamed Ride for the Living film project. So you heard about this project. We don't have to get into all the history because we don't have that much time, but from someone who's a very, very close friend of yours, somebody who I've become good friends with, Melinda Goldrich, who, along with her sister, Andrea Caton, and the Goldrich Foundation, have really been incredibly generous and really supporting a lot of Holocaust funds, and also a great friend of us here at the JCC. So when you first heard, I'm just curious, Melinda, you first heard about this idea, a bicycle ride from Auschwitz. Were you like, oh, great idea? Did you kind of get it from the narrative point of view, or we were like, what the hell are they doing getting on bicycles, Auschwitz? What was your initial thought?
Well, it's a great question, and the answer is kind of multifaceted, because on one hand, I heard about it through Melinda, and that she was interested in doing a small documentary about it. And I actually, the first exposure I had, I watched the video you had on your website, which had some footage from the ride, some drone footage, and some interviews with people just expressing their excitement for being a part of this ride. And I must say that little video on your website just floored me. I was so impressed by the whole concept of it. And, it's kind of a unique idea to do this pleasurable bike ride, from such a horrific place. But the whole concept, from dark to life, from death to life, and to, do it to memorialize, but also to raise funds to support the JCC and survivors. I just thought it was a phenomenal idea. And the passion that the people spoke about being a part of it, and the importance to them and their families, and spreading the word and Holocaust education, I said, this is a great idea and should be a documentary. And so I was very attracted to it. And the more I read about it, and the more I learned about it, I thought this was phenomenal. And so Melinda signed on, and we went and did it. And it was one of the most exciting projects I've been involved with. And we're deep in the editing process now.
Let me take you back a little bit. Excuse me, Mark, before I get to this, but I want to talk about the shoot, because it was interesting for some of us here, or for many of us. The film crew comes in, 2 people, 3 people, 1 person with the camera. We've sort of seen that, but this sort of became something much, much bigger. So you came out to Krakow last summer. You'd been before, and we met in other places, and you did some filming at this big gala dinner that we did in New York City with Ronald Lauder and hundreds of people. But I'm curious, the ride filming became something very, very big. I think you had over 20 something person. Maybe talk a little bit about the shoot in Krakow.
Well, so the one of the interesting things about the project was, I think many people have a hard time dealing with the Holocaust or movies about the Holocaust. And what I thought was so unique and interesting about this, it was like a backdoor way to get into this conversation of the Holocaust, by this inspirational bike ride, which I thought was very cinematic and very, the metaphor of it was so powerful. So I thought this ride will be the thread of the movie that will allow us to get into this conversation, especially 75 years later, after the Holocaust, and in the epicenter of it at Auschwitz, one of the worst mass murder in history. The fact that we still have genocides occurring in the world 75 years later made me think that this conversation is as relevant and just as important now as it was then. So with the ride being the thread of the movie and wrapping around it this conversation of not only the Holocaust and what really happened and how this, in the shadows of this mass murder, that this flourishing Jewish community is blossoming where it was once almost totally wiped out, is a fascinating story, both historically, but also as a way to motivate and give hope to people. So in order to film the ride, yes, you guys had filmed it before with a few cameras here and there, but I wanted to do it really, in a way that gave us really a beautiful cinematic coverage of it. And with the help of Lisa Effers, an amazing producer, and some great cameramen, and also the local Polish crew, we shot the ride with about 25 people, and that was amazing. We had two cameramen on the backs of motorcycles facing, backwards, riding 60 miles, which I think was amazing. That was crazy. We had 2 drones. We had stationary cameras along the ride. And we did interviews at the stops. We rode people. And I was really, really happy with it. It looks very cinematic and it's really beautiful. And the route of the ride through the beautiful countryside, and also just everything seemed to work. The gray overcast drizzly sky at the beginning of the ride, with everybody with their bright lime green jerseys. And then as the ride progressed into the city of Krakow, the sun came out. And as some of the footage is just spectacular. And that's actually what we're doing right now, which is kind of called doing selects. We're going through over 80 hours of footage and picking all the both visual pieces that we like, as well as all the things from interviews. So I've been living with that ride for the last month and a half. I think, we had about 8 or 9 cameras shooting the ride. So I've had to watch that ride 8 or 9 times. I think I know every pebble along the ride. Sure you do. Then the interviews with all the great people that we did in Poland, like Michael Berenbaum, the scholar and professor and rabbi, which is interesting. It's really great now, 1 year later, going in and watching all this stuff finally and piecing together the puzzle. We still have a few things left to film, but for the most part, I'd say 85% we have. But what Michael Berenbaum said the other day when I was watching it was kind of interesting. He gave you the most amazing compliment. He talked about, and from a scholar and a historian's point of view, that he said sometimes there's just things just gel together and the synchronicity is amazing. For the right person to be in the right place at the right time with the right passion and the right experience and the right just gumption to make something happen. He said, that's Jonathan Green Ornstein. And he just said that you are, your energy and drive is part of the history of the rebirth of Jewish life in Poland and Krakow. And he just, I thought it was just so amazing to get that kind of praise from somebody of his stature. So we have a lot of stuff like that.
Hey, let me just be sure to leave that in the film. Don't cut that. I'll take. I'll take.
I think that's an important thing. But since all the wonderful people that we interviewed in Poland, including yourself, Robert Desmond, who made the ride, and unfortunately Marcel wasn't able to be there, but that added a whole dramatic element to it. and then taking Robert and flying him to Montreal to surprise Marcel. They have never seen each other outside of Auschwitz. To make that reunion happen, and Marcel had no idea, and we filmed it. We were inside with one camera in his apartment, and in the hallway when Robert knocked on the door, and to have that whole thing was amazing. And all the people in Poland, from Tad Toby to Michael Berenbaum to all of your staff, Ozzy, Augie, and Sebastian, and everybody that was a part of it. Some really amazing footage. And then since the ride, we were able to interview Stephen Smith at Shoah Foundation, Jonathan Greenblatt, head of ADL, Ben Ferenc, the last living 100-year-old prosecutor from Nuremberg, who's still fighting genocide to this day. So we've got some really some great interviews and a few left to do. Hopefully we'll get to talk to Steven Spielberg about a few things.
I'm waiting for that, right, for our conversation. Tell me how you envision, two questions. One, so you envision like an hour-long, something like that?
The feature length would be about an hour 40 to an hour 50. Just, standard,
really
documented. Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought an hour, but okay, that's very, and so wait, a few Zoom for the Michael Alford friend, a good friend, Zoom for the living. Jeffrey Rolat, our friend, has pointed out that you haven't done the ride. And I
have not.
I think he's done it backwards on a motorcycle. I think we can give you credit. And also my staff is pointing out that you haven't yet signed up for a virtual ride for the living. We're very strict with this. I'm sure. From Mark's eyes, I can see that you're about to sign up, but he's been in the basement busy.
I would love nothing more. I was just telling somebody this the other day, how much I would love to do the ride, how to be a part of it.
You'll do it with us next year. Tell me when, of course you can't really know yet, and you're dealing with it right now with Tattooed Torah, but with something like this, where are you looking for this to be seen? How do you see the distribution happening for the film? Now it's still a ways off, obviously, but.
Well, definitely the film festival circuit, and then, in private screenings at museums, and, hopefully at USC and at the JCC Krakow and any of the museums. And then hopefully either Netflix, HBO, or, some major distribution, broadcast distribution would be our goal.
Absolutely. Amen. So there are a few things that I always sort of close with as we start to get to the end of the interview. It's been very, very interesting for me, and of course, talking about the ride, something that's on our minds as we're knee deep. This year, I'm not sure. I think I told you the other day we have over 1,100 people signed up for this virtual ride, and actually, I am going to go on the 15th. We extended it 1 week, so we're going to finish. Sorry, on the 12th of July instead of the 5th. Just have so many people that want to do it and want more time and want to bring their friends in. So we're over 1,100. We're extending it 1 week. And on the last day, I'm going to go out to Auschwitz and I'm going to ride back by myself. And I just felt Marcel can't do it this year and Bernard can't do it. And I feel like I just want to do it for them and for everyone else, but especially for Marcel and Bernard. So I'm going to go do it on the 12th. But one very important question, as you remember last year and a few years before, we did the Latka Hamantash debate. Are you Latka or Hamantash?
Oh, total Latka.
Yes, another one. Latka it is.
I like
Marc Bennett. Latka. And very, very important question, Mark, that I ask everybody. And not counting your own work, not count anything that you've worked on. What are your 3 favorite films?
All time?
All time.
Wow. You caught me off guard there.
Very good. Well, that means you haven't been watching the previous AMAs, but we'll forgive you because I love you anyway, but you got to give me your 3 favorite films.
Oh, wow. Well, you're going to laugh at this, considering that you're a kid from Queens and I'm from Brooklyn, and you're, running the JCC in Poland and I'm making a movie about it. But my cousin Vinny is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Love it.
And it's being a comedy, but I just thought it was amazing. I think, wow, I'm off guard here.
It's a good question.
I would say Tootsie is,
comedy.
is up there. Definitely. I like comedies. And I think some, like I would say one of Billy Wilder's, maybe Some Like It Hot or something like that. But, there's
Nobody's
probably another
perfect.
40. Nobody's perfect. Exactly. But I must say that I just, this particular project, I love everything I'm doing, and I love jumping back and forth between the art and the film. But this film about the ride, I think, is so vital and important now, especially what's going on in the world with, with the pandemic and with the, with a lot of the racial unrest that's happening in our country. I think that something that deals, what's come out in this film is, the fact that genocide is still happening 75 years later after the Holocaust, and that dehumanization, the ability to make somebody less than human, being one of the major proponents to leading to genocide, which we're seeing over and over again. And we're proposing the question, is empathy possibly a weapon of defense against that? And it's hard, I'm hard pressed to turn on the news these days and see a news story without the word empathy in it some way or another, whether it's about in a slew of these current events. So I think what you're doing and the memorialization you're doing about the Holocaust, but also giving people hope for the future, as well as educating them along the way, I think it's just so vital. And I'm really honored to be, leading the charge on this project with a really great team of people, from Melinda to Lisa to all of the writers. I have Brett Copen and Tim Roper, amazing writers on this project, and our amazing editor, Elena Schmelter in Chicago, who's doing an amazing job. We've been editing all along, putting little scenes together and building this. But I just think it's really important, it's timely, and it's really an honor for me to, to shine a light on the amazing work that you and the JCC are doing there. And hopefully we'll get this out to the world and give you a much greater audience for this important messaging.
From your mouth to God's ears. No, it's been a pleasure working with you and doing the film. We always have a lot of fun when we're together, and a crazy time, but a good time. So thank you for all that you've done. I couldn't imagine anybody else making the film, and excited to work with you, my brother. Take care of yourself.
I feel the same.
Send my love to Aspen.
I will, and everybody who's watching that was in the ride and or works with the JCC. Thank you all for your participation, and we'll look forward, hopefully by the end of this year, early next year, to be have a film to start showing. So keep your fingers crossed.
Absolutely, got to open the cinema so we can get it back in the cinema. Be well. Love till Deborah. Say hi to Melinda. I'll talk to you soon, Mark.
All right. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Be well. Well, thank you, everybody. Another one in the books. We'll see you next week, as they used to stay on Batman, on the old Batman TV show. Same bat time, same bat station. Stay safe, everybody. Be well.